Good evening. This is the Thursday, February 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, being held at the Public Safety Complex. We have a committee of 7. 2 have given their regrets. 1 has a prior commitment, which is acceptable. 1 is in Florida, which is not acceptable. Which leaves us with 5. 4 is a quorum, so I declare we have a quorum and the meeting is officially opened. Next order of business would be the review and discussion of the meeting minutes of last Thursday, February 15th. Those have been circulated to everybody, hopefully in advance and time enough for you to have reviewed them. Or if you need another minute, that's fine too. Otherwise, I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
Motion to accept. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion?
I just had one comment, I guess, here. Under old business, we had a discussion about the public safety building generator, but we never kind of closed it out. We just talked it. We never got to a conclusion. What was the final result? It's fixed.
Maybe we can wait for Michael to,
Gladly update you.
yeah.
Okay, all
When he-
right, because I mean, when I saw in the minutes, but we never really got it to closure.
We all spoke rather unofficially, so we have the official here to close
Okay.
the loop. So
Okay.
if we can move the motion, which has been second, discussion closed, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Abstentions? None? Motion passes. Next order of business is to hear from at least 2 of the departments, in this case, 2 major departments that have submitted capital needs requests, there being the Fire Department and the Department of Public Works. First up this evening is the Fire Department. Chief Pingatore, if you want to come up, and if you don't mind, before you get into your presentation, could you give us an update on the generator?
Oh, absolutely. Good evening.
Good evening.
I know everybody, but
Do you
for
know
everybody at home,
everybody?
it's Mike Pingatore. I'm the fire chief in Town of Paxton. And as far as the generator is concerned, it was repaired. It was done in November 15th, I believe, was the final repair. So we were able to get that taken care of. It's up, running, runs its weekly test now. We check it for vermin on a relatively weekly basis to make sure nothing is moved in and created any more damage. But everything worked out in the end. In the long term, we stuffed dryer sheets, mothballs, and everything else in there to hopefully keep it from happening in the future. And we'll work with the DPW this spring to get everything cleared out in the back there so there's nothing that they can really climb up onto to get into that generator. But knock on wood, everything's good with it right now.
Okay, just a follow-up question. I guess the way we got into discussions last week was there was a request for appropriation. I can go back through the notes, but I think it was somewhere less than up to $20,000. Where did we end up, I guess, in regards to that? That's,
I think we were right around, I'd have to go back and look at the individual invoices. But the rentals ran about 12,000 because we ran into some issues with procurement, and it delayed us getting the repair.
okay.
But other than that, it was around 12,000, and, I want to tell you, it was probably, I take that back, around 24,000, right off the top of my head. I'd have to look back on the paperwork, because it was, the repair itself was somewhere around 13,000. And the generators ran about 12,000. We have, that appropriation has helped to maintain the building budget, so we otherwise would probably be in the negative right now, trying to get like the alarms tested for the year. Our heating system has had several repairs since the generator, but nothing crazy out of the ordinary with the building other than that generator.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
no problem. No problem.
So FY '25, Mike.
FY '25, so just to start, I gave you guys a packet. I think most of the stuff you've probably gotten from Mark or in the last couple of weeks. Just to kind of touch base on this, at the very beginning is my capital request for the next 2 years, which are very similar. So FY25, FY26. In the middle of that is just the explanation from Stryker about the LifePak monitors and the Lucas, and everything that Stryker has sent us over the last several months, kind of warning us that they're no longer going to support service on this, and we're not going to have a fun time finding parts. About 2/3 of the way through are the quotes for the new machines. And at the very end, in those quotes, there is also a payment plan if we decided to move forward and pay for it over the course of 5 years. So I'll go over all that stuff in the presentation itself. And then at the very end is the 5-year plan. You can see where that falls. So without further ado, I'll present this year's project. Right off the bat, our goal this year is to hopefully replace what you see here on the table and at home on the PowerPoint, which is our LifePak 15 cardiac monitor. One of them, we have one in each truck. And then our Lucas chest compression system. So in the picture, you can see it all set up. That's the white container on the table there. These were purchased, the monitors were purchased late 2012, and the Lucas was purchased in 2014. The monitor is model year 2013, and the Lucas is a model year 2014. So the monitor has an 8-year life expectancy, so we've gotten our life and then some out of the monitor itself. This version is a version 2. It's no longer supported by the software and software updates that we need to do on a regular basis, and the motherboard that runs these is no longer manufactured by Stryker. So that becomes an issue. So we'd replace it for a similar machine, almost exact same, it's just a version 3, everything's updated software. Pretty much like our cell phones, right? We're not running the iPhone 1 anymore, we're on to iPhone 14, 15. These update a lot quicker than those, which is a good thing, but that's the case with that. So
If you don't mind me asking.
Yep.
What exactly is that used for?
So I'm going to get
Oh,
into
okay.
that, right? You're
Okay.
jumping ahead on me there. That's okay. I like that. So the LifePak cardiac monitor, it is used for just about every advanced life support call we go on. It is a manual and semi-automatic defibrillator. It has those capabilities. But it also, if we get called to your house, you're not feeling well, you get chest pain, we're going to put the leads on you. If you've ever been to the hospital, maybe you had a Holter monitor at some point, you had leads, they're taking electric pictures essentially of your heart. They're watching the electric conductivity through your heart and making sure you don't have an arrhythmia or something going on or a sick heart. So with these, if you've ever been into the hospital, which most of us have, monitors up on the wall, you hear it beeping. This is a compact version of that, and this actually does a lot more than that monitor you're used to seeing. It also can do, besides defibrillating, can do what's called transcutaneous pacing. So what this does is this allows it to be an external pacemaker. So if you have a bad heart rhythm, okay, and it's beating odd, so you got a beat, and then a few seconds later you get another beat, and it's not regular. What we can do, and if it's making you sick, we can do is this machine can synchronize the electrical rhythms of your heart and get your heart to beat in the correct rhythm until we can get you to the hospital, into the cath lab, or into the cardiologist suite, and they can insert an internal pacemaker. The other thing that this monitor does, and I'm going to show you guys in a couple of minutes here, the actual capabilities of this machine, is it has special monitoring parameters. When we are working a respiratory distress or a cardiac arrest, any number of calls, we can put capnography on you. Just make sure you're exchanging the bad air, the CO2, and taking in the oxygen, and you're doing it in a healthier way. That's stuff that we bring to the hospital, and help you with your diagnosis earlier. The other thing is pulse oximetry. Everybody's kind of familiar with that after COVID. The other thing, it's not listed on this, that these machines, the newer machines can do that this one cannot, is take your temperature. Another big thing with COVID that released on the newer versions. So, and then also monitor carbon monoxide in your blood. You know, as a fire department, we do a lot of carbon monoxide calls. We got to evaluate people that have potentially been exposed to it. And the buildup of carbon monoxide when you're not exchanging the right gases. Last but not least, and I'm missing a bunch of things that the machine actually does, and that's why we're going to demonstrate it for you in a little bit. I can take a 12-lead EKG strip. I think we've all seen them. That's how we can tell if you're having a heart attack. And if it looks like you're having a heart attack, what we do is we hit a button, transmit it to the hospital, on our way to the hospital. They get it in advance. It bypasses the unnecessary treatment in the ED, sometimes. So instead of you going in the ED, doctor seeing you, nurse seeing you, pulling labs, this, that, and the other thing, the cardiologist can then get the strip and say, all right, we're going right up to the cath lab. It saves time, saves life, saves cardiac muscle. The cost for this machine, brand new, I know in October, November, when I submitted my request, the numbers were off a little bit because they had an increase January 1st, but the cost of this brand new would be $47,000. Trade-in value on this current one is $6,500, so it would bring the overall price to about $41,000. The next thing we're looking to replace is the Lucas chest compression system. Same deal with this machine as far as software updates and capabilities to keep it serviced and serviceable. The lifespan on this, again, from Stryker is 8 years. We've got, the first one we got was in 2014. Each truck has one of these. It is I can't sing enough of its praises. We've had multiple saves with this since we've gotten it in cardiac arrest. It's been phenomenal. This device delivers high quality, continuous compressions for 45 minutes. So that allows us to get to the hospital, plug the machine back in, and keep continuous chest compressions. A lot of times we find with this machine, we get to the hospital, the one bad side is that delays are getting out of the hospital because they're using it while they're working on that patient. The other benefit to this is on these high priority medical calls, it's really eliminating the need for another set of hands or someone else getting in the way. Maybe, so on a cardiac arrest call, we may call for extra personnel to help us out. Now, a lot of times we do that, we got to get the patient out from, the second floor bathroom down to the truck, all while continuing chest compressions. This machine allows us to continue those compressions all the way out of the house. And, if you've ever taken a CPR course, everybody here taking a CPR course at some point? Per the AHA guidelines, they suggest that you should swap out every 2 minutes. The person doing, we never have to swap this. They can almost do all the interventions while this machine's running, making sure the blood is flowing throughout the body, continuing oxygen perfusion to each and every important organ, especially to the brain. Cost to replace this in 2024 currently is $25,583. The trade would be $5,000. So a net cost would be $20,000, $583. So total replace both devices, $61,801.76. Would like to take it out of EMS revenue, so there's no cost to the taxpayer going to the town meeting. So before I move on to the next portion of this, I'd like to bring in two of my paramedics so they can show you the monitor and the Lucas in action. Should take about 5 minutes, and you can maybe get a good feel and appreciation for the machines.
Take one and pass them down.
So, one of the important things I want to demonstrate is when they brought Simman in, this is your standard ambulance crew, 2 providers. So imagine them bringing a patient out of a house while the patient's in cardiac arrest. The 2 of them can't do continuous chest compressions. So that's the important thing. So having them bring them in the backboard, demonstrating that the normal crew doesn't have enough hands to do everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of run through the basics of a cardiac arrest so you can see both machines in action and see the importance of both machines. So without further ado, Cindy Gaudet, paramedic at 22 years, and Matt Hansen, an EMT for 5, paramedic for 2 months, serving the town of Paxton. So you guys can take it away.
All right, so we're just gonna run through this as if it was real, as if we were just approaching a patient in cardiac arrest. Let me give ourselves a little more room here.
Yep. Could I get one volunteer so you guys can do chest compressions? You mind? Dave, Forrest, Kateri, Neil?
Come on, Forrest.
Forrest, all right.
Yeah.
Just like working on a carburetor.
It is. It's
Right.
Remember, that's right.
It kind of is, right? The heart's the pump, right? So,
No, right here is fine, yep, that's
Yep.
fine, it's fine. So, we're gonna have Matt here. Start getting the monitor hooked up while we start compression. So the AHA and the most recent guidelines indicate that compressions, continuous quality compressions, hard, fast, and uninterrupted, are the cardiac arrest patient's best shot.
Forrest, you gotta sing. Staying alive, baby.
Yeah. You play a metronome. Have you done compressions before? A long time ago. Okay. So the idea of compressions is you want to get 100 per minute, and you want to press down at least 2 inches and allow for complete recoil. So this is what that looks like. You want to get your shoulders over your body, because if you're just using your arms, you're not going to do it effectively. And just press straight down. And typically, compressors are switched every 2 minutes, so every 5 cycles, because after about 2 minutes, it's shown that the compressor gets really tired. So, and the compressions start to lag. So what we're going to do is we're going to have you do compressions for 2 minutes. So right there. A little faster.
just like Neil said, staying alive.
That's
Sing
it.
that for us.
It's the Bee Gees song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, we're also going to be getting our other equipment ready, starting to ventilate the patient.
And just so everybody's aware, they would be getting the readings from the heart right now, if there are any, on the monitor through the defib pads they placed. So we have what's called a rhythm generator that we're using right now to just kind of demonstrate you to what kind of rhythms you'd see on the monitor. So the box behind Cindy is actually bringing up a VFib arrest.
Check patient.
All right.
If
So that was
no,
approximately
push
2 minutes.
analyze.
So you were going a little on the slow side, but can you see how that would be tiring after a while? Yeah, so, all right, that was the demonstration, just to get somebody up here doing compression so they can see, exactly how long 2 minutes looks when you're actually doing that work, particularly for like adverse conditions
Check
or
patient.
elements.
If no pulse, Push. Analyze.
All right, so right now, no, not yet. Actually, we'll leave it up. So right now, one of the features of this monitor is that it also can double as an AED. So it doesn't require necessarily a paramedic to go through and choose all the energies
Check
to use.
patient.
And so
Give
what this
no
is doing
pulse.
now
Push.
is it's
Analyze.
walking through the cardiac arrest as if it's an AED mode. I'm gonna take it out. And because of this rhythm that it's in, I'm going to choose an energy. All right, so this is in joules because this was a defibrillation. I would choose an energy.
Sure.
Charge, clear, we're not actually gonna do this, the pads aren't even connected, okay? And then it would be shock. So that would be a defibrillation shock, the energy for a defibrillation, and that is to convert a heart that is chaotic and not mechanically working at all, not pumping, into a more organized rhythm that actually works to pump blood. So that's what defibrillation is all about in like a really simple kind of nutshell, and that's the point at which we would do that.
Demonstrate Lucas.
Now meanwhile, all this time that we're doing this other stuff, somebody's gonna be doing compressions, because the minute you stop compressions or, you know, lose the quality of them, that patient's chance drops quickly. So, what we have is this mechanical device that will provide compressions for us, both to free up our hands for other things and to ensure that the compressions are high quality.
So there's a second part that you're not seeing that's underneath SimMan right now.
Yeah,
It just-
we put this under here just for ease. This is just what this connects to.
Yep.
All right, it's just a back piece this connects to. The patient doesn't have to be on a backboard for us to do this because this back piece provides a firm enough surface for compressions to work.
Oh, we dislocated his arm.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know I had that.
That's fine.
So what it does is, as you can see, Matt's strapping his arm. Because what happens is, you know, people are unconscious, they're not breathing, they're not pumping any blood. So their arms are kind of flailing everywhere. This allows us to get the arms out of the way. Cindy set the plunger down on the chest and hit the button. So while that's going, they can do whatever they need to do. The only time they'll stop this, and they'll pause it, there's a little pause button, there's a play button and a pause button on the top, is to shock. If that monitor says shock, they'll pause it, deliver the shocks, continue it going. If they get a pulse back, we stop doing that. It becomes pharmacological at that point where we're starting to treat everything with the cardiac meds that we carry, such as lidocaine, dopamine, and low pressor, to maintain that rhythm in hopes that it stays until we get to the hospital. So as you can see, and the reason I'm having these guys do the airway and everything in the IV is there's a ton of work that's required. And the Lucas device frees up the ability to do that. Otherwise, if it's two people, chest compressions, airway, you're not delivering the meds that you might need. And we carry epinephrine and atropine, which will hopefully stimulate some electrical activity in the heart to get it going. So they're going to do the IV, they're going to deliver their drugs, and then hopefully get him back. All while they're securing the airway and delivering oxygen so they can perfuse that and maintain brain function. You know,
Mike, just to follow up, this is advanced life support because
Yes.
you have a paramedic here.
this is. So the nice thing about these two devices.
Well, could you, all right, there's two levels of care, basic and advanced.
Basic and advanced. yeah.
Okay.
No, paramedic level. So there's actually three.
Okay.
The state of Massachusetts is basic. There's advanced, which are allowed to do IVs in advanced airway, but not necessarily decipher cardiac rhythms and deliver drugs. Paramedics can decipher the cardiac rhythms, deliver drugs, do a little more advanced techniques as they need to. They can do needle cracks in the trachea. If you got a blocked airway, they can also decompress the chest. Both of these devices are compatible with the lowest level of care that we do provide. So, we still get cardiac arrest when the paramedic truck's out of town, and it's just two basic level providers. We can use this as an SAED, semi-automatic, or we can use it as a manual. Manual, only Cindy and Matt can do that, because depending on the patient, depending on what's going on, they can adjust the amount of energy that's delivered. A basic can't do that. We can only deliver what the machine calls for. So just like bystander CPR, you go into the senior center, there is a defib right there. You can use that defib. This machine will operate just like that defib.
I guess to follow up, or the reason for the question was, these are basic tools that you need to perform
Yes.
these services. I mean, we're not asking for anything, I'm going to say, above basic requirements. So this is the bare minimum to provide these services. Okay.
Without this machine, I can't run a licensed ambulance.
Okay.
ALS service, yeah.
How many lives do you think this has saved in the last 5 years?
2014, the first 2 months we had it, 4 saves.
Wow.
I've kind of lost count, but you guys just had
In the
one.
past 6 months, there's been 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So you guys, and just as recently as 6 weeks ago.
Wow.
So,
Recently, it's 2 weeks ago.
oh yeah, 2 weeks ago, so, yeah.
So Mike, in your summary page, not so much the CIPC form that
Yep.
we require, your summary page speaks to both of these as being replacements.
Yep.
So the question is, what's the ETA, and what do you have now, and how is it functioning that it needs replacement?
So things right now are functioning good. The problem being is, if something happens to this, I can't have Stryker service it. Parts are limited, so if something goes wrong. So one of these, I'm not sure if this one or the other older one, the motherboard went on it about 6 years ago. We were able to replace it, no issue, no cost, because we were paying for Pro Care. One of the nice things is I knew the Pro Care was going to be discontinued on this because they cannot service the version 2 anymore. So it saved me about $7,800 out of my budget, so I didn't have to pay for that this year. However, if something breaks, I have to pray I can ship it to a third party, and they may be able to fix it, where Stryker won't, because they do not want to warranty any repair they make on this machine.
So the units that you're replacing can't be backups because you're trading them in.
Yep.
So you'll still only have a newer version, but only one each.
So, we only need one of these. We do have a newer version of these in one of the trucks
Yeah.
that we purchased in 2020. And it is a version 3, but it's my only one that can be serviced. And one of the old ones right now currently runs as a backup for this reason. However, these two, the 2 older ones, I won't be able to service. So I'm really relying on one, which is in the frontline truck right at the moment. The other one we're still using, we can use it day to day, but God forbid something happens. We had a close call over the summer where this wouldn't get what's called capture on the patient who had a funky heart rhythm. It took several tries, which is an anomaly for these machines. So I had to have the tech come out and look at them and run the report, make sure everything was good. Luckily, it was just an error on a placement of one of the pads. But when they fail or potentially have a mistake, I have to spend a lot of money to have an audit done by the service. And an OEMS, the Office of Emergency Medical Services, has to get notified if it's a big mistake. And then they send their investigators out. It kind of costs a little bit of money for us to make sure that things are working. So as a requirement, these have to be serviced once a year for our license. So right now, they discontinued, and you see in your packet, as of December 2023, no longer can they service these. And as of February last year, the Lucases can't be serviced. The nice thing is, the new one is virtually the same machine, just the guts are a little bit different. Batteries still work, the batteries we have, and the carrying case and all that stuff will work. We just have to upgrade like the pulse oximeter and the blood pressure cuffs and everything. Yep.
So, Mike, another financial question, which is not meant to take away from
Nope.
the good demonstration and the intangible value. But you put a slide up for both of them, and the prices have actually gone up a little bit since October.
Yeah.
And I may have missed it, so I apologize if I did. How good are the prices that you showed us this evening?
They are as of this morning. So I've had, going back and forth, so there's two companies, and the reason why I submitted a request to replace one this year and one next year, if I had to change this all out to the Stryker competitor, which is Zoll, I'd have to get another monitor. Where I have a 2020, I'm okay. I only have to do one monitor, but both Lucases would have to get changed out. So I've been going back and forth on the price and dealing with Stryker and trying to keep it up to date, because I knew January 1 there was a price bump, which wasn't a huge one, but it was still a decent bump. So I had him come out yesterday afternoon. I met with him. He sent me another updated quote as of right now, which should be good till July. So we should be good in that timeframe.
Yeah, good. Neil?
Just again, to follow up on some of this, so if I understand this correctly, there are 3 units in the department right now. One is kind of way in reserve, we hope we never have to
Yep.
draw on it. There's one on a frontline truck, which is a version 3.
Yep.
As technology changes and increases, when is version 4 coming?
I'm sorry, so the one on the truck's version 4.
4.
4. So the new Lucas, if we get new Lucas, that would be 3. Lucas
Okay,
3.
I'm more interested in
Yeah,
that.
and that's why I just want to clarify
Okay,
why I
all
said
right.
3. So, per FDA, they have to service and provide support in parts for 8 years after it's discontinued.
Okay,
So version 2 was discontinued in 2015.
15 and 8/23, okay.
Yep.
All right, so the new one that you have on the frontline truck, what year is that?
That's 2020.
2020, and that's version
4.
4.
It hasn't been discontinued yet.
Not yet.
All right, so is there a version 5?
There is a version 4 and 5, and they were released similar to the same time. However, so this is a LifePak 15. In June of this year, they're releasing the LifePak 35 with a price tag of $60,000, whole redesign. I've been told and guaranteed that they will continue to make the LifePak 15 for a few more years. So if we were to purchase a 15, which in my mind is the better investment right now, we would still have till whenever, if they discontinued the 15 or 24 and 26, say, we still have 8 years after 26. So that still puts us beyond the 8-year usable life of this machine.
So, again, I just want to follow up. So if you replace the one this year and one next year, they would basically be the same. So parts are interchangeable, batteries,
Yep.
pads, things like that. If you get the 5, I'm trying to keep my,
The 35, yeah.
all right, 35. So would that all be compatible to batteries, or, because we're going to end up on a switch of versions here
Yep.
at one point. You're going to have Model A, and then you're going to have Model B. They both do the job.
And so that's why I'm saying that this is the better way to go. I'm equipped with current batteries. I'm equipped with everything I need. I just need the gray box, and I only need one.
Okay. And that'll give you roughly 10 or 12 years is
Yep.
what you're, okay. All right, that's fine.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and they say that on normal use, right? What's normal use?
City of Boston.
Is it the city of Boston, or is it
Town of Paxton.
So 10 years, I think, is a great investment. But just to clarify, the reason why I put another request in for 2026 is if we had to go to the competitor. I checked the prices aren't very different. But I would have to, it's not like buying having a Chevy ambulance and a Ford ambulance. It's completely different. So that would be the problem. Yep.
Thank you.
So Mike, sorry to be the technician here. I
No.
don't know if everybody heard what you said. But after you said it, I passed out the most current version of the special revenue. And I would direct the committees to that page. And in your summary that you submitted to us, it said that you would use ambulance receipts to fund both of these, I believe in 2025.
Yep. Yeah, FY '25.
So the technician in me is, I can see people viewing this right now that are saying, just get them. But we really don't have to go through, Carol, help me out. It doesn't have to be on our committee report or a town warrant because they're using their own funds to purchase them.
Yeah, it just has to be appropriated at town meeting, but I think it's more than.
The ambulance receipts still have to be appropriated? Okay, so it would be in our committee report? Okay.
and I
So
think it's
so
good
does
for you to
everybody,
see.
if you look at this right here in the middle of the page where it says fire, 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 the first one that he was referring to is 2212, and you can see ambulance receipts, double-edged sword, has a pretty good balance, but a lot of that balance also goes toward balancing the budget, and some of it is probably being set aside because in a couple of years, you're gonna need a new ambulance.
Yeah, we haven't set any aside for that yet, but,
Right.
yeah.
So that's where that money would be coming from, which would be a non-budget item, but a town meeting
Yep, to appropriate.
appropriation requirement.
Yeah, and if you see in the packet, I gave you one of the pages after the quote, given to me by Stryker, has a breakdown where we could just, if we wanted to, do 5-year installment of $20,000, so we're not breaking the bank on that either, so.
Yeah.
So just to keep that in mind. So that's this project in a nutshell, so I'll let you guys clean up. I got one more thing to discuss and kind of keep you guys abreast of, and I will turn this over to Travis. Travis?
Thank you both.
Thanks for the
Yes.
demonstration. Yeah.
I'm doing my best, Travis. It's, believe me. Mark, the big one's in 2 weeks.
My ill attempt at humor, I told Travis,
I
you'll
got it.
follow Mike when he's done or until the lights go off, whichever comes sooner, so.
I hope I didn't put anybody to sleep. I know I didn't
No.
before us, but you're gonna sleep good tonight, though. So the next project, and again, I just want to bring you guys up to speed on this as the capital, because it's a big capital item. It's always a big topic for us. It's the SCBA. So in 2012, we purchased all new SCBA for the town, for the fire department. We had town meeting, we got the money approved. However, there are some nuances with SCBA. One of them being the carbon fiber bottles that come on them have a life expectancy of 15 years. So every 5 years, I have to have them pressure tested and visually inspected. And you can see these bottles were made in May of 2012, so 5/12.
Yep.
There. And the date of their last inspection was 7/22. So in 27, these bottles are up. So, being a big ticket item, I believe in 2012, it was $210,000 to replace all 29 medics, plus 4 written medics. Right
Thank you.
now, yeah,
Thank you again.
thanks, guys. Don't fall. Thanks, Travis.
Compliment from everybody.
It's Rutland's, don't break it. So we're coming up on the end date for the carbon fiber bottles. So one of the things I wrote in that, so everybody saw in my capital plan, is to replace these bottles. The harnesses themselves don't necessarily need to be replaced until 2032, it's 20 years, NFP. 15 years on the carbon fiber, 20 years on the harness and everything. However, the particular brand of SCBA we bought likes batteries. It eats batteries every 6 months. And what happens is the batteries tend to explode inside and destroy the motherboard that runs the PAS system, the heads-up device, a lot of the safety features we bought the PAX for. So I'm going to start, hopefully this year, I started 1 or 2 that needed to be replaced due to the epoxy coating being damaged and that stuff. Taking the grant money that we get each year from the Department of Fire Services and replacing a few bottles. My goal was to do about 8 of them with the grant that we just got awarded. However, it's not a high priority on the state's list right now, so I got kind of chopped down a little bit. But the goal is, right now, probably 3 to 4 bottles this year with that, and then if I have some money left over in equipment, would try to get a couple more. The overall goal, though, in 8 years is we got to replace them. So this leads me to the next part of this. The price per bottle is about $1,600. In 2012, we opted to go, obviously, with carbon fiber, but the next-gen Quick Connect, so we can change bottles out fast, kind of drives the price up, and we have 5,500 PSI that this bottle holds. Most bottles standard are 4,500 PSI, so that kind of hurts a little bit when it comes to replacing this bottle, because we'd be looking at about $1,000, maybe $1,100 to replace it. But this particular bottle is a little more expensive. So we're going to be using grant money for that, but the other thing too is we're going to start applying for AFG grants. That's a big federal grant. We did this year. You are the first people to know about this, but we just did it, and we did it in a regional capacity with the town of Spencer, with their fire department. It appears that the regional grants are getting priority, so we're hoping that that's going to hit. Spencer would be the host community, get the award, and determine what we're going to get. But that is the big thing right now.
Mike, is that a grant for units or just for cylinders? Regional for cylinders or regional for breathing apparatus?
For apparatus. So their cylinders are up completely this year. Ours are up in 2 years. However, both towns, their 2007 edition, so we're 2 NFPA editions behind the current NFPA standard that the SCBA is using right now. So those are the big things that's kind of driving that need. So, and the nice thing is we're reducing the amount that we actually need. So instead of 29 units, we're only going to need 24. So that should, today's price, somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000. Hopefully we get the grant. We're going to continue to try with them until we can get it. And we're kind of hoping that, maybe next year, if it's not successful with the 2 towns, another town will jump in on it. But that's kind of the update for that. Anybody have any questions? There's a lot of information coming out at once.
Okay,
Sir.
just a question on the cylinders. First of all, I commend you for trying to phase into this, so that's a good thing. Having some experience in the industry, a lot of manufacturers offer just the skin of the cylinder or the shell, and you reuse your valve.
Yep.
Is that what this involves at $15.95?
That is what I got to find out.
Okay.
I don't know exactly because I haven't had the contracts and stuff signed and inked on that grant to be able to jump in and do it. If that's the case, then hopefully that'll save us some money. If it's not, if it's not including this, it could be, if I remember correctly, it could just be that cylinder itself and not the valve.
Okay.
Is that much?
The valve's somewhere between $400 and $500, but it would have to be rebuilt if you want to reuse it, so there's probably a $100 charge for that.
Yep.
In round numbers, so you're looking at maybe a $400 savings on something like that, but.
That's $400 that goes to another bottle.
Well,
so,
exactly,
yep.
so, okay.
Yep, no, I appreciate that. Anybody else? I know there's a lot of information coming at you, fast and furious here,
And
and
what's the life expectancy of the new ones?
15.
15.
15 years?
Yep,
That's it?
that's all you can get out of them.
No matter what, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can push it. God forbid something happens, though. We're all kind of in a sling, and I would not push it beyond 15.
Not
Right.
at 5,500.
Nope. And that's the other thing, is continual stress from the air being pushed against the sides of the cylinder. And like Neil said, we run the risk of it blowing up.
When they do the pressure testing, they test it at 5/3 the working pressure, so that 5,500 is tested at almost 8,500 pounds. They measure an expansion, then they take the pressure off, and it has to constrict back to where it was, and they measure that expansion and contraction to make sure it falls in a range. So,
No, thank you, that's excellent information. If we're good, I'm good. I'm gonna get my stuff out of here. and-
Thank you very much.
Thank
Michael.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on, it's gonna take me a little bit.
Travis, if you want to make your way up, that would be great.
You bring some show and tell models too, Travis?
Unfortunately, I was not able to bring any show and tell models as my,
oh, I thought we were gonna have an excavator or something, a dump truck or something drive right through
all my
here.
days to put a presentation together.
Am I not talking loud enough?
To the best of my ability.
Oh, okay, special note.
Good evening, I thank you folks for having me here this evening. Travis Tebow, Director of the Paxton DPW. We did set before the committee for three capital requests, two of which we had put before the committee last year, and one would be a new request. The two that we put before the committee last year were to replace a 1989 Mack dump truck that's set up with a plow and a wing plow. That truck currently does not have a dump body on it. It strictly has a sander body. It was taken out of use for all 4 seasons due to trying to conserve the life of the truck. The other piece of equipment that we had set before the committee last year was to replace a 2014 Ford F-350 pickup truck. Again, these are both pieces that we put before you folks last year. The third and new addition this year that we're adding would be to replace the 2012 Ford F-550 one-ton dump truck. This particular truck, it gets used daily. It's in pretty tough shape. We would actually like to be able to hang on to it and use it strictly as a reserve truck, if possible. Utilize it at the cemetery more than on the roads if possible. We ended up doing that with the 2006 dump truck that was replaced several years ago. We actually ended up getting a couple of more years out of it, and it came in extremely handy when we had trucks go down during a storm to have that backup piece of equipment. So again, that would be for the replacement of a 2012 Ford F-550.
So Travis, can I pick up on that? So
Certainly, sir.
it's to replace it. But did I hear you correctly? You could use it on the cemetery, in which case you would have kept it and not traded it in.
Correct. So we were originally looking at trading it in or putting it out to bid.
Yeah.
The more I thought about it, the 2006 that the DPW ended up hanging on to a few years back, with minimal input into keeping the truck running, we were able to utilize it as a backup piece of equipment and utilize it at the cemetery more often. So that truck is now well beyond its lifespan and has been taken out of service. So we were hoping to do the same with this truck. I know when I submitted this, we were talking about replacement and trade-in or putting this truck out to bid. Ideally, we would like to be able to hang on to it if possible and use it as a backup piece of equipment.
I don't mean to take you out of your presentation, but your cover page speaks to the point that it's got mechanical issues and rot.
So
So one of the finance committee questions would be, how much is the mechanical issues costing? But maybe it's been minimized because you've taken it out of service.
Yeah, so this particular truck, the 2012, has not been taken out of service. We did end up just putting some work into it. The 2006 that we had hung on to as a backup piece of equipment is completely out of service now. So again, originally, when I submitted all of this paperwork just recently to you, I was planning on taking this out of service and putting it out to bid. We did not receive a trade-in value for this truck when we got a quote for it. So if we did end up having to get rid of it, we would be looking at putting it out to bid. The truck, yes, definitely has some significant rot to it. A lot of it's in the body. As far as us doing work at the cemetery, that would not affect that. To have it as a backup piece of equipment for snow removal purposes, with some minimal patching in the body, we could still get a sticker on it, I believe. It does have mechanical issues. We just did put some money into it. But this is, if we continue to use this as a daily vehicle, we're gonna have to continue to dump money into this piece of equipment. Any other questions on that piece of equipment?
How many miles are on the 350?
I will be honest with you, I'm not certain off the top of my head. We're in the realm of 100,000.
Okay, and the 550?
So the 550 has actually had the motor replaced in it twice. Once because it had caught fire at Lamrell Ford when it was there to get some work done on it. The second time, the oil filter had gotten torn off the bottom of the truck during a plowing event. So to give you an accurate mileage on what the motor is, I really can't tell you. Same thing with we're around the 100,000 mile marker on the body itself. Again, it's a 2012. It's got some pretty significant rust and rot. Same with the 2014 pickup. It does have some significant rust and rot. We've had to do a lot of work to that truck over the past couple of years that we would not be looking to hang on to. I believe over the past 5 years, we put upwards of 23,000 into that pickup truck.
Okay. A clarification, so there's an 89 Mack,
Yep.
a 2012 F550, and a 2014 350, or a 2012 350?
2014 350.
14, 350.
Okay. All right.
Again, with the 2014 pickup truck, this is a vehicle that gets used daily. Our staff are out in it every day doing whatever we need to do. The 1-tons in the pickup trucks get used all day, every day. This 89 Mack that we've submitted for, again, as I stated previously, it has been converted from a 4-season piece of equipment to a winter season piece of equipment. So it no longer has a dump body on it, it just has a sander body mounted to the frame. That particular truck, as I stated to you folks, to the committee last year, the frame is starting to separate. We did start doing some work to it last year. I want to say it was in the realm of about $6,000 worth of parts that we purchased, and countless man hours. Unfortunately, we've been lacking with mechanics over the past 8 months, and weren't able to do a lot of work to that truck. We have been able to keep it running to this point. It's been utilized throughout the winter. It was down for 2 storms this winter where we had to utilize other pieces of equipment. That truck itself, again, the frame is starting to separate. We still haven't had the opportunity to replace the fuel tanks and the strapping on the fuel tanks. It still needs a lot of brake work done to it. The sander body itself is in tough shape. It needs a lot of attention. We did purchase a new chain for that sander body. We have not been able to get it installed as of yet due to the high number of mechanical failures that we have with all of our equipment on a regular basis. When we did have a full-time mechanic in for a short period of time over the fall, he was tied up and we just never were able to get to it.
Does the, I'm sorry,
Right.
does the F-350 need to be diesel? I mean, that's a $10,000 option.
The
I can see it in the dump truck, in the 550, I can see it.
Our issue with going gasoline, I personally would have no problem going gasoline. The issue is we don't have a gasoline tank for the town. So whenever we have to, any department here in town has to purchase gasoline, they have to go out of town to do so. Typically, all of our staff, when we do need to purchase gasoline, we go to Bill's Garage out in Rutland. They're not open 24/7. I'm not even certain where the closest gas station is that would be open 24/7. So if we're in a plowing event, and we need fuel at 2 in the morning, we're gonna have to leave town and drive to Webster Square to get gas. So, I mean, if we had a gasoline station, I would absolutely have no issue with getting a gasoline pickup truck. I mean, certainly you get more torque and power out of a diesel engine. I don't think it's necessary for pickup. Our biggest concern, our biggest issue with that is we don't have access to gasoline 24/7, 365.
Okay, the other thing, there are two proposals here, one for a 550, one for the 350. They both have a reference number of 99T/44G, which is the diesel. One's 9950 and one's 9795. It appears to be the same option. So I don't know if,
You will have to,
If
which
there's been a price
page are you
increase
looking
or-
at, sir?
Which page do you want?
I'm on page, on the 550, it's page 1 of 3, under the MHQ proposal, item 3, and item 2 on the quote for the 350 with plow, it's 97.95. So again, it's just a couple of bucks, but it's the same exact reference number, 99T/44G.
So yes, it's the same. The 2014 pickup truck, the quote we obtained, I believe it was back in October.
Okay, yep, 10-4.
And the quote that we received for the F-550 was about a month later. So that's gonna be your difference in price in a month. I was attempting to try to get updated quotes for these, and I didn't have the time to do so. Unfortunately, we're still short-staffed. Currently, we just hired a new mechanic that started this week, so up until then, I've been assisting the guys out in the garage, wrenching. I've been out on the road, working with the staff, and I just haven't had the time to make these requests, put presentations together. I've been too busy, unfortunately.
Okay.
Understood. Mike, excuse me, Travis, you took delivery of a Freightliner this year,
We did, yes.
and a year ago, even though you know better, we asked whether or not, why the Freightliner are not staying with the Mack truck, and you've taken now delivery of a Freightliner, and putting back in front of us again this year another Freightliner. Is the Freightliner the truck of choice?
The two Macs that we do have, the two newer Macs, and I say newer, one's in '09 and one's 2014, I believe. So they have some age on them already. We've had a lot of mechanical issues with both of those trucks over, even prior to me taking this position. I believe my first year here, we put upwards of $30,000 into the Mac 10-wheeler that we have. Just mechanical issues.
And how's the Freightliner been functioning? How long have you had it in service?
So we've had the Freightliner, I believe we took delivery in July. We did have some initial issues right from the factory. ATG, the company we purchased through, has been excellent to work with. They made all the repairs that needed to be made, as well as MHQ. We had some issues with the sander. When we got the sander in, our first two snow events, we could not get the sander to operate properly. With anything like this, when we're having it upfit, sometimes there's issues. The companies that we've dealt with have been wonderful to deal with, and I would continue to deal with them both. As far as a choice over a Freightliner or a Mack, it's kind of still too early to tell. The price difference was what drew us to the Freightliner. It's a little bit smaller of a truck than the Max six-wheeler that we have. It's doing its job. It's a good running truck. It's an all-wheel drive vehicle. The operator of that truck this winter is telling me that he's not noticing even at all when the roads are icy. It's making a big difference. And he's the gentleman that's been driving the '89 Mac, so it's a big difference. We're looking to get one of our younger guys into that '89 Mac for the rest of the season right now, if we can keep it running.
I got a package.
So, not to take away from your presentation, Travis, but if we add all three together,
I understand.
which you hate to do, it's $506,485, $500,000.
Yes, sir.
So the good news is, or the bad news is, that's a big nut. The good news is, and I should know better, and I will at the next meeting, but I believe that a backhoe is coming off our debt service this year, which would make slipping one of these in to replace that a little bit more palatable. I'll have that at the next meeting. The question is, how is that piece of equipment functioning?
The John Deere backhoe?
Yeah.
Is fantastic.
Okay,
It's absolutely fantastic.
so we're taking it off debt service and we're gonna have it for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. We haven't had to do any major repairs to that piece of equipment. I don't foresee us looking to trade that in anytime in the near future.
Yeah.
How many miles a year do you put on the Freightliner?
Kind of tough to tell. So we've been using, again, we had some issues with it, so it had been back and forth to the shops a couple of times. When we had the issues, we weren't, all the mileage was getting
Right.
driven back and forth to the shop. So it's really been about the last 2 months where we've been using it. We've been utilizing it anytime we're doing any excavation since that point in time, as well as plowing and treating events.
How many miles is that per month?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. It's gonna vary every month. It's gonna vary every day. If we have a water break on Holden Road, it's a lot different than if we have a water break down on Spring Drive. If we're plowing snow, it depends on how much snow we're getting, how long the duration of the storm is. It's kind of an impossible question to answer.
Yeah, we're just looking at a line item here, warranty for
There's an engine warranty on them.
150,000, 6 years.
Okay? I don't think we would ever even come close to seeing
Yeah.
that in the course of 6 years.
Yeah.
If you had to prioritize the three items, not just biggest to smallest, but how would you rank them, 1, 2, or 3? What is the biggest need?
To replace the '89 Mac would be a humongous benefit to the Paxton Department of Public Works. Currently, right now, we have three large trucks that are out regularly plowing and treating snow. This would give us a fourth large truck that we'd be able to put on the Marshall Street side of things. The last several years, the Marshall Street side of Marshall Street and all the side roads off of Marshall Street have been getting plowed with a 1-ton dump truck. It's a lot of road to try to plow with a small truck. To have a piece of equipment like this, especially adding another wing to the fleet, would be a humongous benefit to our department, as well as all the residents throughout the town.
What's the manpower now in the department?
So when we are fully staffed, there's 7 highway employees and myself.
Okay, where are we presently?
You know, we're currently, we just hired a mechanic, and I have another mechanic that is out on military leave at the moment. He's overseas right now and has been since July.
So are we at 5 or are we at 6?
So we have, there's 6 members right now.
And they're all able to drive the big
They
equipment?
are not all able to drive CDL equipment. There are 4 CDL licensed drivers.
Are you one of them?
I would make a 5th CDL driver. I am not typically out in a CDL truck.
Okay. And presently, we have 3 CDLs, big trucks.
We have 4. We have the '09 Mac, the 2014 Mac, the '89 Mac, and the 2023 Freightliner.
But the '09 is a lot of times out of service. So that driver is driving a pickup truck.
Yeah, so the '09, it's actually been good the last about year and a half. I want to keep it that way. But again, over the 2 or 3 years ago, we had to put a lot of money into that vehicle. Since then, we've had to do some minor repairs, nothing of substantial cost. But, you know, it takes a couple of $1,000s a year.
Kind of a non-CIPC question, but a finance committee question. Filling the positions that are vacant, is that no applicants, not qualified, pay is not competitive? What's the reason?
It was a combination of all 3, to be honest with you, when it came to mechanics. Mechanics, as I'm sure Forrest could attest, are extremely difficult to come by these days. The hardest thing for a town like Paxton, we can't compete with what a company like Ballard Mac is paying. You know, they're paying their diesel mechanics $45, $50 an hour. We can't even come close to that.
But it's different work. I mean, when you're at a dealership, I mean, you're all the time working, always on the thing. When they're here in town, they work, I'm saying, in the morning, because they fix something, then they go back out and do another task, correct? Or are they straight mechanics, they sit there?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
Since I've taken over this position, we have not had a mechanic be out in the field unless it's an emergency. They're in the shop making repairs all day, every day.
Okay.
When we've had a mechanic. So since I've taken over this position, when I initially started, our original mechanic was out on medical, he was out on workman's comp. So we went roughly a year and a half without a mechanic when I first took over. Then we hired a mechanic. He left on military duty roughly 10 months after he started. It took us 3 or 4 months to try to find somebody to step in while he was out. I hired a gentleman to take that position. He lasted about 3 months, and he quit while I was away on vacation. There was some issues, whether it was in-house or with that particular employee, I don't want to speak of, or it's not my place to speak about. Regardless, the gentleman quit, and it took us, that happened just around Christmas, and we just were able to hire another mechanic and started this week. So this gentleman seems to be extremely knowledgeable. He worked for MHQ upfitting trucks and equipment for several years. Then he went to Stetco for several years before he came to us. Stetco's the company that builds and maintains catch basin trucks. So he's got a lot of specialty knowledge with the trucks and equipment that we'll use. So I'm hoping that we're going to keep this gentleman for a while. And the other mechanic that we have, he was sent on a 16-month military leave, I believe. Hoping he's going to be back a little sooner than that, safe and sound, and willing to come back to the department. He was an excellent mechanic, had a lot of motor skills. Between the 2 guys, they're going to make a great team in the shop for the department. So hopefully we can get caught up finally with our mechanic work, and we'll be able to do more preventive maintenance to try to eliminate some of these issues in the future, like cleaning and painting frames and getting them properly treated so that we don't have these rust and rot issues. As I'm sure you can attest, you can do a lot, and it's still going to happen with the salt that we're putting on. That's on the equipment half the year. Hopefully with 2 gentlemen being able to do that type of work, we'll have a lot more and come to you folks less.
Travis, how much is the inconsistent positioning of a mechanic and the inadequate facility that you have adding to the wear and tear of these particular vehicles?
It's extremely significant. So the, not having a mechanic and having to sub out work or to have it sent out, for one, it's eating up a lot of our budget when we have to do that. We have had a couple of gentlemen that work for us that are truck driver operators that have some pretty decent mechanical ability. And while we've been down mechanics, they've really stepped up and helped the department out a lot. Honestly, we would have spent 3 times what we've spent over the last 8 months this fiscal year had we not had these 2 guys doing a lot of stuff. And it's been great to have guys that are mechanical and can do some mechanical work for us. It's to not have a steady mechanic is extremely detrimental to the department. The facilities itself, I will just take cleaning the equipment. We're in such a close proximity to the drinking water reservoir that we really shouldn't be even washing the trucks outdoors at that location. Unfortunately, that's all we have the ability to do right now. Being short-staffed, we don't have the manpower to be able to clean the trucks as they should. We don't have adequate facilities to be able to do that type of maintenance to it as it should be getting done. The facilities themselves are in extremely tough shape. The main portion of the garage it's undersized. We have an extremely tough time fitting the equipment into the building. Many of the trucks, when we're pulling them in and out of the bays, have roughly 1 inch, maybe 2 inches on either side of the truck. It's hard enough to do when you're fresh and you wake up after a nice 8 hours night's rest. Try doing that without getting sleep for 3 days to pull in and out of the barns. So the barns get struck a lot by plows, the doorways. So it's pretty common that we're fixing doors and rails on the doors because the staff are, haven't had the proper amount of rest that they really need, and accidents happen, unfortunately. As far as the starting and the equipment in the morning, trucks like this 1989 Mack, again, as I'm sure Forrest could attest, you start an old truck like that, it blows smoke for 5 minutes. We can't pull it out of the garage right away, so we're blowing smoke in the garage. This time of year, most of the time, we're having to open a bay or 2 bay doors in the morning when we're doing this to try to remove some of the carcinogens that are getting put into the air from the exhaust of the trucks. If we're talking a plowing or a treating event, it's not just a single truck doing that, right? So we have 4 large trucks, a couple of 1-tons, 2 front-end loaders that are all getting started. All the doors have to be opened. We lose every ounce of heat in the building. Not to mention, again, the carcinogens that are getting put in the air inside the garage where all the staff are. It's not safe for the staff. It's not good for the building. It's just not a good situation all around. We do store a lot of our equipment outdoors or in cold storage as well, which also isn't good for the equipment. Same thing when we're starting the equipment out in the cold storage buildings, it's got to warm up, especially if it's been outside. You can't just run a piece of hydraulic equipment and start moving the hydraulics. You're going to blow lines. You're going to have issues with pistons. So you have to leave that stuff warm up. And again, you're putting the exhaust into the building, and we're all breathing it in. My assistant is, a lot of times, especially this time of year, can't work in the building with us, so she's working either remotely or from another town building. It's adding a lot of time to what her and I need to do together, for me having to travel to her or for us having to try to do something remotely. It adds a lot to not have somebody sitting next to you or within close proximity where you need to speak to them or get paperwork. It's a lot of unnecessary wasted time, in my personal opinion. I understand that the high cost of replacing the facility isn't something that anybody wants to do, and I get it, it's a lot of money to replace a DPW facility. To not have a wash bay and have to be washing our equipment outside, I can tell you when it's 0 out, my guys don't want to be out there getting wet, spraying trucks down and scrubbing them. So the equipment's not getting washed like it should. They're not removing the salt off the frames because frankly, they're freezing. They're outside and it's 0 degrees and they're getting soaking wet. We try to do it when it warms up a second time or a third time if we have to, if we see salt in the frames, but it's still sitting there. It's still causing issues to the equipment. I could go on for hours, but I don't want to waste any more of anyone's time, so.
Note that's probably a topic for another meeting, and I don't mean to pick up on what you said, but you literally just said a minute ago that you didn't think anybody wants to replace the building. The truth of the matter is, we all want to replace the building. The question is to get it to an affordable level so that we can do that.
Yep, and we are working on that. We started meeting with the DPW Building Committee again. We've got a couple of new members. We're throwing around some new ideas or revisiting some ideas that we've had in the past, so I don't want to spend millions and millions of dollars either. Unfortunately, the cost of these big-ticket items like this is never going to come down. When we spoke with the engineers last, they got a little sticker shock from the price they told us, as I'm sure the rest of the committee did. At that meeting, when they came to present to the DPW Building Committee, they told us to expect a minimum of a 5% increase every year moving forward. From an already extremely high cost, so.
Two members of your DPW building committee right here.
So,
Can I
Gary
just
and,
ask a question again? I understand the need, and I'm not questioning that at all, but I'm looking at the location. You mentioned that we shouldn't be doing some of the things because we're next to the drinking water supply. Have we explored any other locations in town that just might?
we've spent months.
Brigham Road was
Yeah,
a popular site.
There you go, right there.
We've spent months actually looking at alternative locations throughout town. There really isn't any good feasible spots for the size we need. There was a large piece of property that went between Marshall Street and Sumi Street.
South Street,
South Street, thank
but
you.
it's wet. It's all,
3/4 of the property is
Is
wet.
that the Hill Street, is that the one?
No, it's
Okay,
not
all right.
that.
I'm just-
And I believe they were looking for $578,000.
$575,000.
So-
51 plus acres, but I'd say
Eminent
70,
domain.
more than 70% of it is wet.
Okay.
So
It is wet.
we have looked at other areas throughout town as well. I
And-
continue to keep my eyes open. I've asked around to some of the local property owners here in town to see if there was ever any interest of some folks that I know that do have larger pieces of property. If there was ever any interest in possibly selling sometime in the future, and, you get some maybes. I have also reached out to the Leicester Water Supply District, who has a piece of property off of Grove Street, a large portion of which is up close to the road and fairly flat. That may end up being an option sometime in the future. Currently, the Leicester Water Supply is looking, they're tying into the city of Worcester to start purchasing water from the city of Worcester. I don't know if they're gonna discontinue those well fields down
That's on a
off of
lease,
Grove Street.
correct? They lease that property from the town.
Carol, would you have an answer for that? I thought it was a 100-year lease, but I'm not positive of
I
that.
think it's owned by,
It's owned by Leicester.
It's owned by Leicester.
Less, okay, they, oh, okay.
no.
So, there you go.
So those water supply parcels of land that Worcester and Leicester own, they pay us based on a pilot. So it's minimal, but we do get some tax money from it each year.
I
Then
have,
again, you're running into issues where you're in a water supply district.
No,
So what's gonna happen?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah, you're gonna be in the same issue, you're gonna have the same issues trying to build as you are over on
It
Holman
really
Road.
depends upon the zone it's in,
Right.
right? So around a drinking water reservoir or a well field, you have infiltration zones.
Yeah. Sure.
Zone 1, which is X number of footage away from the water supply. Zone 2, which is X number of footage away from the water supply. I have not looked at maps for what their zones are, where they lie. I haven't been out in the field. I've only spoken with the superintendent over there and one, maybe two of their water sewer commissioners over there. I have been informed that there may be a possibility that they'd be looking to sell that sometime in the future if they decided to stop utilizing the well fields. If that ever happens, I think it would be an extremely good investment for the town of Paxton. Those wells, I believe, produce somewhere around 75,000 gallons of water a day. When we're pumping, our average water usage for the day, we're somewhere around 250,000 this time of year, and let's say 350 to 400,000 in the summer months. If the town could obtain a well field like that, it might be able to then possibly move away from the city of Worcester, start utilizing the Asnabonsket Reservoir again. Obviously, you'd be looking at large costs to build a filtration plant, but it would give the option.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions?
No.
No?
Travis, I want to personally thank you for wearing a tie tonight. And thank you for coming this evening, and we'll get back to you. We need to kind of gather ourselves and decide what we want to recommend, but good presentation, and we agree the needs are there.
Certainly. I thank you all for your time.
Yep.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank you.
You don't have any ambulance receipts in your back pocket, do you?
I do not. No. Have a nice evening.
See you, Trevor. So, I'd like, if you don't mind, to jump down to future meeting dates, and let me offer this. This is gonna get a little confusing. Notwithstanding the warrant article closing date, but meeting next week, Select Board meets on Monday, Finance Committee meets on Wednesday, and Wachusett Regional School District is making a considerable presentation on Thursday.
To finance or to select?
To the 5-member towns,
Oh, okay.
and the 5-member towns are gonna attend. So that kind of takes next week out of play.
Okay.
The reason I like to look to the following week is because if we met the following week, the first full week of March, we will have had the benefit of the Select Board meeting Monday when they want to talk about the budget and the override, of which this would have, what we're doing this evening, have some play in it. The Finance Committee would have benefit of meeting on the 28th. They have similar type discussions. And we'd also get the benefit of where the Wachusett Regional School District is going to land, not all of which has a direct impact as to how we vote and rank, but it does have some indirect impact on it. And I think we could benefit from those 3 meetings having taken place. So I'm looking at March 5th or March 7th.
March 5th, we have a planning board meeting. 2 of us.
The 6th, the Finance Committee meets.
The
So
7th works for me.
the 7th,
Good.
and I think we would have to tighten
I'm
up
good
our,
with
tighten up our business, so I think you need to,
6th or 7th is good.
come ready to get on with it.
Okay.
So the 7th at 7. Does this facility meet with your approval? As
Yeah,
opposed to,
wherever we can meet is okay with me, whatever
yeah, once in a
Yeah.
while, there is some,
conflicts.
Thursday's traditionally a training night, which would boot us out, so let's just
Yeah.
agree that it's the 7th at 7 o'clock, and where it's gonna be will be TBA. Good.
Okay.
Any old business?
I'd like to discuss the draft of the proposed changes,
Well-
if we could.
I'd like to see that be tabled until after
Okay.
we get through our budget season
Yeah.
and all of this, because I think it's gonna require
Okay, that's fine.
some longer discussions, and we have 2 members that are not here as well. So, if that's okay with you.
Fine with me?
Well, it's, anything is okay with me. I defer to the committee. Here's the, the good news is if we take our time and put it at the end of what are other important things confronting us right now, that makes sense.
Okay.
The bad news is that in order for them to be changed, they have to go to town meeting, they have to go to the select board, they have to go to town council, so they wouldn't obviously take place in May of 2024. This is probably a May of 25 issue, and I think that's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Um,
Well, and in all fairness to the other 2 members that haven't been here, they need to
Right,
have an opportunity to review them and discuss them.
yep, totally agree. You okay with that, Neil?
I'm fine, that's good.
Okay. So is there that other kind of motion? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Second.
Someone's gonna make it.
I'll make the motion to
Okay.
adjourn, sorry.
Terry, second. Neil,
Sure, second.
discussion? None? All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Abstentions? None? We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Okay.